Welcome to this explainer on why discipline feels totally effortless for some people and, let's be honest, nearly impossible for others. Today, we're breaking down the real, psychology-backed reasons behind this. And as you'll see, comparing your day-to-day discipline to someone else's perfectly curated highlight reel, yeah, that was never really a fair game. Picture this. You take two people and you give them the exact same goal. Person A, they just glide right through the friction. But person B quits by week 2, feeling weak-willed and defeated. But here's the crazy part. This massive difference in execution actually has absolutely nothing to do with their character. It turns out discipline isn't just some personality trait you're born with. Psychologically speaking, it's more like a finite resource. It's tied to this incredibly complex interaction of your biology, your past conditioning, your identity, and your environment. And those things are wildly different for every single one of us. All right, let's dive into section 1, biology and conditioning. Reason number 1, it all starts with your nervous system's baseline state. You see, discipline actually requires a very specific type of mental bandwidth. If your nervous system is calm and regulated, delaying gratification feels like a total breeze. But if you're running on low-grade chronic stress, well, suddenly even choosing an apple over a donut feels like running a literal marathon. It's not weakness, guys. Your bandwidth is simply already maxed out. Moving on to reason number 2, childhood conditioning. This is huge because it quietly shapes your relationship with structure decades after you've actually grown up. Think about it. If you grew up in an unpredictable environment with chaotic or harsh rules, your brain unconsciously associates strict routines with a threat. So that internal resistance you feel when looking at a tight schedule, that's not laziness. It's actually an old nervous system pattern just trying to keep you safe. Okay, let's look at section 2, identity and dopamine. Reason number 3 is all about identity behavior alignment. Trying to build discipline purely through forced actions without fundamentally changing how you see yourself almost always fails. If deep down you truly believe, hey, I'm not really a disciplined person, I just try really hard sometimes, well, your brain is going to constantly sabotage your consistency. Why? Just to protect that limiting self-image. It's wild. Reason 4 is absolutely fascinating. Discipline is heavily shaped by your unique dopamine sensitivity. We usually just assume everyone processes rewards the exact same way, right? But neurologically speaking, that is just completely false. Some brains are highly sensitive to distant future rewards. They can wait for it. But if your dopamine system demands immediate stimulation, telling yourself, oh, my future self will thank me, barely even registers. You biologically require faster, shorter feedback loops to stay in the game. Next up is section 3, emotion and environment. This brings us to reason number 5, which is a massive missing puzzle piece for so many of us, your ability to regulate your emotions. What looks like a total failure of willpower is very often just an emotional regulation gap. When that uncomfortable feeling hits, like anxiety or frustration, a brain that lacks regulation skills desperately forces you to seek short-term comfort. Like endless scrolling or snacking, just to cope with the discomfort. Reason number 6, environment. We really like to romanticize this idea of the lone wolf pushing through obstacles. But human behavior is deeply, deeply anchored to our surroundings. If you're fighting a high-friction environment, we're talking junk food in the cabinets, distracting apps just one tap away, unsupportive people, you are burning all your bandwidth just surviving the day. Those so-called naturally disciplined people, they usually just engineered a low-friction environment. They don't need superhuman willpower because the cookies literally aren't in the cabinet to begin with. Finally, we arrive at section 4, the safety foundation. Our 7th and final reason is the foundational layer that ties this whole shebang together. It's deeply connected to how physically safe and regulated your body feels overall. You simply cannot expect a body running in survival mode to execute habits like a body that feels completely safe, rested, and stable. Physical exhaustion, poor sleep, and chronic stress, they quietly drain the exact resources discipline depends on. And that's exactly why your willpower wildly fluctuates across different seasons of your life. So let's recap. Discipline is a combination of these 7 distinct layers: your nervous system, childhood conditioning, identity, dopamine sensitivity, emotional regulation, environment, and overall body safety. You are literally never playing this same game as that highly productive influencer to begin with. Building lasting discipline means you've got to stop forcing raw willpower on top of unresolved patterns. You need to identify which specific layer creates resistance for you. Once you know that, you can engineer support structures around your unique bottlenecks instead of just constantly blaming yourself. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Which of these 7 layers do you think has been quietly working against you the most? Finding that answer is your real first step to making a change.